Woof! Hello, my wonderful friends, and welcome to another edition of the Nintendo News Roundup. It's here! I know you've just been waiting and waiting all of your life for this specific edition of the Nintendo News Roundup, and here it is. Before we get started, though, just throwing it out there, just every once in a while, not every single time, but just sometimes, Arlocast. It's a podcast that I do, and I think it's really cool, and I would love it if you gave it a listen. It's on all major podcast platforms. It's on YouTube, so if you wanna, it's a thing that we're trying to do, trying to turn into a thing, doing it every week. Lots and lots of cool YouTuber guests, and it's been really cool, and we're coming up on our second month of doing it, so go do that if you want to. On with the news, though. Somebody somewhere somehow got their hands on an old corporate Nintendo disc. They decided to throw this thing on eBay and just kind of see what happened. I don't know if anyone even knew that this thing, like what this was. One Zen64 managed to find it and purchase it for only a few $100s. And imagine Zen64's surprise when they found a bunch of super duper rare footage of Earthbound 64, the canceled Earthbound 64 footage that no one can find anywhere else. 25 beautiful seconds. This footage was originally aired at Space World 97. It was just like one of the demos or something that they had there. And it's just a little clip. There's no sound, but my gosh, it's something. It's something that I ain't never seen before. It's something that most people ain't never seen before. So that's pretty cool. And it's really frustrating that Nintendo, people would just flip out so much. They've got all this. They've got all these files. Why can't they just hey, here's a fun little thing. This isn't gonna affect any future sales. Let's take a look at an old game that got canceled. I don't know, they don't like doing that stuff. So it is fortunate then, not really fortunate, sort of fortunate, it's a whole thing, Giga Leak. Last year we had the Giga Leak, massive Nintendo data breach. It's the thing where we go, oh, you bad hackers, don't do that. But at the same time, we love to see the stuff in the leak because it's all really interesting stuff kind of behind the scenes at Nintendo. And I'm really not sure how the process works, but apparently more stuff is still coming out of that leak. People are just taking that data and turning it into just more and more stuff, and we got some new stuff this week. Here are some really early Wii Remote designs. You can see that Nintendo was messing with a whole bunch of different kind of button combinations for the Wii Remote, which is incredibly interesting. Last year, an ex-Retro Studios employee opened up about a canceled, or at least a proposed Sheik-centered game, even with concept art and everything, and it sounded super duper cool. And this Giga Leak has kind of corroborated that. They found mention, basically a big list of games that Nintendo was at some point working on at some point in time. And this data directly references, quote, action game featuring Sheik from Ocarina of Time. I am sad that this further evidence has arisen simply because it makes me just sad, honestly, that this game never happened. Obviously we don't know how far in the process it was. It could have just been a proposal to Nintendo, but whatever the case, wow, the Sheik game. It's all about, it sounded dark and cool, and the art is super neat. Oh gosh, that's so cool. Made by Retro Studios, too. Made by Retro Studios. That's a bummer. That is a thing. That's a thing right there. Then another little tidbit that I actually don't know what to think of. This data also references a Metroid game developed by Intelligent Systems. Weird. It's definitely weird. Again, we don't know if this thing really was a thing, or if it was far along in the process and got canceled, or if it was just proposed, or what. But at some point, Intelligent Systems, they make Fire Emblem and Paper Mario, they were gonna make a Metroid game. And I don't know, they mostly do RPG kind of stuff, so I don't know if they could make a good Metroid game. Probably. They're very talented developers, but that's weird. Just imagine a timeline where that happened, where we got a Sheik game, and Intelligent Systems made a Metroid. Now for some massively exciting news. Nintendo is giving us three, count 'em, three new Super NES games on Nintendo Switch Online. 3 more games I have never heard of, ever. Just never heard. Claymates, Jelly Boy, and Bamboozle. I like clay stuff. Claymates looks kind of cool. I like just the clay aesthetic, and it's on Super NES. That's pretty cool. That's pretty alright. In Japan, though, one of the games that they're getting is Shin Megami Tensei If, which is a super duper cool looking RPG, and a lot of people say it's incredibly important in the whole Shin Megami Tensei Persona thing history, and you know, but that's cool. We didn't want that one. No one here wants that. We want to play Jelly Boy. I'm not disappointed and bitter and a little bit angry. What are you talking about? Reggie Fils-Aimé is writing a book. That book is about Reggie Fils-Aimé. It is coming in May of next year. It is called Disrupting the Game, From the Bronx to the Top of Nintendo. What can I say? It's a Reggie book. It's a book about Reggie. It's about the life and times of Reggie, his climb to success. And, you know, he's had a good history across a lot of different companies, so I'm sure that will be pretty interesting to read next year. By the time this video goes out, I don't know if all this will be cleared up yet, but I know at least at the time of launch, the Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo faced some delays, just like shipping delays. A lot of stores just kind of weren't getting them. I even saw people on Twitter going and trying to Alex C&D, he was just trying to get his, and none of the stores had them. And so, yeah, I don't know if they're rolling in yet. I should go and see, because I actually do kind of want to get one. I didn't pre-order it, even though I'm mad at it and its functionality and all that stuff. It's still so cool. I still want it. So hopefully that, you know, works itself out, and there are, you know, like, kind of almost enough to go around. That'd be nice, too. Speaking of expensive but really cool little figures, Intelligent Systems has been releasing a line of Fire Emblem figures, and the next one in line is Ike. And here you go. Look at this little guy. That's a cool little Ike. These figures are pretty darn neat. They're expensive, but, you know, pretty good. Like them. Very good poses. Very good detail. It's cool. Power A is at it again with another special themed controller, and I'm at it again, putting it in this roundup because it's, look at it, it's a thing. It's a thing to talk about. We're talking about it. This is a Blood Moon controller. It's pretty cool. I'm not a fan of how much white there is. I feel like it's a Blood Moon. I feel like the rest of it needs to just be black or just red or something. The white, it's a little weird. I'm not a big fan. But if you're a big fan, I don't know, go buy it. VentureBeat journalist Jeff Grubb has in the past been one to make a lot of very bold claims. Does seem to fancy himself something of an insider, if you will. And he seems to be pretty darn certain that Nintendo has Metroid Prime Trilogy just like finished and ready to go. Like the game absolutely does exist, and they've basically done all of the work. He says that because of the whole pandemic, just like the QA process, the quality assurance process of just, you know, making sure everything is ironed out has kind of been slowed down. And also, you know, Nintendo wants to hold on to it until it is a better marketing opportunity, you know, perhaps closer to the release of Metroid Prime 4. This claim is entirely unsubstantiated and all that stuff. You know, he's just kind of saying it, doesn't really have any real sources, and even if he did know that this was true, then it's like, why are you privy to that information? It's like with any kind of leak or any claim like that. It's like, if you actually know, you probably shouldn't be saying it, because you're gonna get in trouble, or the person who told you is gonna get in trouble. But, you know, whatever. He said it, and I hope it's true. I mean, it goes along with what they were saying even a couple years ago. Lots and lots of people were 100% sure that this was a real thing, and that Nintendo was just gonna release it. And just because it's been a couple years, I'm not willing to give up hope yet. I think that rumor still could have been true, and that it's true that Nintendo just didn't want to release it that far away from Metroid Prime 4. They started over development, yada, yada, yada. So, we'll see. Last week, we talked about a Bloomberg report claiming that the Nintendo Switch OLED model only cost Nintendo $10 extra to manufacture. But, plot twist, Nintendo's official business Twitter account came out and said, nuh-uh. They said that's just not true. There was a claim that the profit margin has increased on the Switch OLED model, and we are telling you that that is not true. So that's interesting. I'm almost surprised that it just kind of say that specific number is not true. You'd think there would be an increase in profit margin. I mean, that only makes sense. You're providing more, so maybe you're going to mark it up more, but I don't know. Maybe it turns out it does cost them about $50 to, I mean, there's got to be some small amount, you know, oh, it only costs us $47 to make, you know, or I don't know, maybe it costs them $51 to make. Maybe they're losing $1 on it. Who really knows? A lot of people do seem to be focusing on their second statement too, that they are not currently planning on releasing any more hardware models, but that's not ever anything to pay attention to, because they said that before this, And they said that before the Switch Lite, and they've said that before every other revision that we've seen in the last several years. It's just a thing that they say. Don't pay attention. I'm not saying another model's coming anytime soon. I'm just saying that doesn't mean anything. In the US, the Switch was the best-selling console for the first half of 2021. End of news story. What's new? Oh, it always seems to be the best. I mean, like, seriously, I must reiterate that if the other consoles had more units on shelves, they would probably be selling a lot more than that. But whatever. Still, I'm a Nintendo guy, so I'm gonna be like, haha, yay, Nintendo wins. Speaking of good sales and money and stuff, Nintendo is very transparent when it comes to how much its executives are making, which is pretty cool. And they revealed, what all the top executives are making right now. Obviously, they had a really, really good year, so they've received bonuses. You know, there's like a flat fee that they get, and then on top of that, they get performance bonuses. The highest paid executives were Miyamoto, President Furukawa, and Shinya Takahashi, getting a couple million overall each, which seems like a lot, but I always have to take these little opportunities to remind people. Like, lots of people say, Nintendo, they're just as bad as any other game company. They're just as greedy. These numbers show that they are absolutely not. Completely not. Look at what the CEOs of other really big companies like Activision and EA, see what they're making. Tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And just in case I haven't brought it up enough, also, they fire employees by the hundreds and then take the money they would have spent on those employees and just pocket them, which is not something Nintendo has done. So I at least applaud Nintendo for having, I mean, like, we're talking 10 times the salaries for these other people. These salaries, these Nintendo salaries, they are relatively modest. And I don't know if I applaud them for that, but I'm happy about it. Also, speaking of money, Pokemon Go Fest earned $21 million in the course of 2 days. 2 days. That's as much as some successful games make total. And they just kind of went, bloop, there it is, $21 million, easy, no problem. Website The Sylph Road has done some really impressive research trying to determine what increases the catch rate for raid bosses in Pokemon Go. You can see all the crazy number crunching and stuff that they did here, but the gist of it is apparently that later in the encounter, you have a higher chance of success, which, I mean, makes sense. People are getting frustrated. You gotta give it to them eventually. Speaking of Pokemon, we got another 25th anniversary song, this one courtesy of Mabel. The song is Take It Home. We're not playing it here or showing any moving images of it because they'll get slammed for copyright, but there you go. It's got a Jigglypuff in it. Jigglypuff doesn't sing. It's weird. Is that weird? Have Jigglypuff in your music video doesn't sing? Yeah, I get it. I don't know. Starting January next year, people in Japan will not be able to use their credit cards to add funds to their eShop accounts on their Wii U's or 3DS's. This change was already enacted in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, and Japan is just kind of next in line. In all of these cases, people can still buy eShop cards, and there are other ways to do it. It's just one small convenience being taken away, which is not a huge deal, but it is a step. And that is a little bit disappointing. The closer and closer we get, like, those eShops are not going to be around forever, and that's a scary, sad thought. And I hate to think of the day when the steps, they get closer and closer, and they eventually just, boom, take them down. Nintendo has teamed up with Oxford University to send out Animal Crossing-related surveys, and this is kind of interesting because there seems to be, like, two reasons for the survey. One seems to just kind of be on the business end, asking people like how much they're playing Animal Crossing, what kind of stuff they want to see in Animal Crossing, just trying to get like a feel for the, I don't know, I suppose the retention, the current feelings of the player base, which is really great because we need more Animal Crossing stuff. They're really, really dropping the ball in terms of content, so it's good that they're kind of at least exploring that, but then apparently it is also asking these people how, like, their mental well-being is, like, when they play, like, how it makes them feel mentally, and I suppose that's the Oxford University side coming in, so I don't know what they're getting at with that, but that's interesting. Andrew Borman from the Strong National Museum of Play was apparently going through a bunch of stuff that was just kind of like donated in a big collection to the museum and somehow found a floppy disk containing a prototype of a PC port of the original Mario Brothers that was developed by John Romero of Doom fame and his team, his early id Software team. Apparently, they made this prototype of a Mario PC port and pitched it to Nintendo, and Nintendo said no, as they tend to do a lot, and somehow it turned up on this floppy disk, and there you go. There was a Mario PC port. It's just kind of here. Random but interesting. The University of Maryland is making strides in the field of soft robotics, which is not something that I knew existed. Apparently, it's robotics, but in order to create movement, it uses things like air and liquid and stuff, just a much more softer, more organic form of robotics, which has many amazing applications. And the reason I'm talking about it here is because they made a little hand that plays Mario. They put a little controller and it plays Mario, so we're talking about it in a news roundup. Really, the soft robotics thing, that's a lot more interesting than the fact that it's playing Mario, though, I gotta say. Last week, we talked about what is probably the rarest e-reader card out there in the world, very possibly. And apparently the person who found it stuck it on eBay, see how much it's going for, and it went for $10,600. Not bad. I mean, it's not millions. It's not like the Mario 64 or the Zelda or whatever, but hey, that's a pretty good chunk of change in your pocket there. Yeah. My Nintendo in Europe, still just getting the cooler stuff than we do, way more often with the cool physical rewards, and apparently now, to commemorate the release of Skyward Sword, you can get some cool little, like, art, like big size postcards of art from Skyward Sword. Pretty cool. You just use your points. All you gotta do is pay shipping, so I'm a little jealous because these are pretty cool. And finally, Twitch streamer Everest Pipkin has completed a very interesting new type of Breath of the Wild run. It is one where they don't step in the same place more than once throughout the entire thing. Sounds like a long, complicated process, but I am impressed. That's pretty cool. My wonderful friends, that is it for this edition of the Nintendo News Roundup. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that I will see you next week, and I hope that you have a good day, and I love you. Goodbye.